The year was 1999. And to a 14-year-old boy such as myself, one of the greatest things that came out that year was The Matrix. Now, I know we've heard this before, but follow me. In the movie, we see the character Neo, and he must make a decision between the red pill or the blue pill.
And always remember, my brother, one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, knick-knack, paddywhack, get a dog a bone.
Yes, and a red fish and a blue fish. Follow me. In the movie that we've all seen, we see that the world that exists is not the world that it actually exists. We see the world as zeros and ones, and it's cliched, but it does make a good point about the world we live in. And yes, this is a matrix, but we're not fighting flesh and blood. Shout outs to Ephesians. Like in the movie, we are being used as batteries. So instead of a red pill or a blue pill, maybe it's time for a purple one. Let's reflect. Welcome, good people, to Passive Militancy. You are here because you know something's off about our world. You're here because you're tired of the things you're seeing. And most importantly, unlike my homeboy who ate a 20-piece chicken nuggets and thought it was gross, every single chicken nugget, you're here because you're looking for real solutions. Or maybe you're like my homeboy and you want to keep eating this gross show. Either way, I'm glad you're here and welcome. Now, before we get into it, and
Now you want to get nuts?
yeah, y'all gonna see a lot of that, so just prepare yourself. Before we get into it, this is what we gotta do. I want you to like, share, comment, subscribe. Help us out. Help the algorithm, man. The more you come and see what we do, the better, because our goal is not to go viral at the Diverse Entertainment, it's to go vital. To be vividly inspiring, truly affirming love. That is our mission, and that is what we're driven to do. Back to regular scheduled programming, and
Come on. Let's get nuts.
now, one of the things that we're gonna do, we're gonna have to set some ground rules. All right. So this is what I need you to know. I am weird. I had a rare background. I grew up in Washington, D.C., Southeast D.C., 640 for those who know. And when I was 6 years old, my father introduced me to the movie Glory. Now, I want to ask y'all a question. What age were you when you discovered, as an African-American person in this country, that you came from slavery, that your people were slaves? At what age? Because a lot of us, we know about this stuff now, but we never go back to the origin. I had an opportunity to have a watershed moment at 6 and realize, oh my gosh, like this is crazy, right? But to be empowered by it in hopes to help other people learn more about our civilization, our situation, and the things that we do. So, one of the things you got to know about passive militancy is we are going to do this. We are going to intersect faith, culture, and humor, history. All of these things come together. Why? Well, because I want to entertain you a little bit. But honestly, if you know where you come from, if you know where the thoughts are going, you can then make strong decisions to be strategic passively. Now, passive militancy is a play on words. It basically says pay attention, maneuver, and be effective. Recognize that this isn't all rainbows and sunshine, but also recognize that you gotta be a little bit aware and you gotta be able to attack the things that are around you. More on DC. So I'm from DC in the 1980s, where the mayor was on crack. All right, like that's where I come from. But I also come from a place of great, rich culture and history of go-go music. I was in a go-go band for about 2 years. Shout outs to the Usual Suspects band. Most of y'all don't know what that is, but that was a thing. Coming from that gave me a bit of nuance or subtle difference able to assess things. So, first and foremost, when you're watching passive militancy, you need to understand one key thing. We gotta tie everything back to the Bible. There is a center of everything, and the word is the center. So I'm going to go off of that now. We're going to start with Ephesians 6:10-12. And it reads, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the full armor of God so that you may be able to take a stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle," and this is the important piece, "is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realm." Now, listen. Some of you may be thinking you're going to see some stuff like this.
I don't know if I'm going crazy, but I think I just found out who the Antichrist will be.
And if it's not that, you might think this show might be about this.
Is Jesus part alien?
I believe so.
So, I am weird, and this will get weird. However, we're not going to talk about the Anunnaki or the lizard people. We're not going down the line on trying to figure out where Jimmy Hoffa is. We are going to assess our pop culture, our culture, and our faith. So then that way we can truly understand the lived experience. See, when you are on TikTok and you on Instagram and you learn about this stuff, and I saw this one thing this dude was like, "Who killed more people in the Bible? It wasn't the devil." That's what he said. But I was thinking, wow, okay, well then say who did it. He wouldn't. I digress. The point is, most of the people that you see are clearly trying to get clicks, but they want a rich man's religion. I'm about to help you understand what I mean. See, everybody wants to have God like a rich man. And a rich man has the authority. He has the principality. He has the power. He has the spiritual wickedness found in high places. Wait a minute, wait. Everybody wants a religion like that. So when you're watching this stuff, you're watching people who want to be right. They want to be superior, just like the group of people who have inserted themselves so much in our culture and inserted themselves so much in the way we think that they have now began to insert themselves and to diminish and to confuse our faith, the faith in Christ and faith in general. See, these people don't understand that the Bible and that faith, this is important, is a lived experience. I know I covered my face, but you like what I did.
Message.
It's a lived experience. And at Passive Militancy, we're going to highlight that. We're going to focus on the lived experience, pretty much. How do we take the Bible? How do we take our faith? And how do we live it? See, the word is the living word because it lives in you. It lives in us. It lives through time. It is timeless. It is not simply living because it's in a book. And you'll learn in the second episode how words confuse things. So, while you're here, it's all about the lived experience. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we're going to have to do is, let's go back to the Matrix. See, you fighting against the albino dudes with the dreadlocks. Hear me though. Does anybody remember that? Like you remember that I think it was the Matrix 2, right? And it was them albino dudes with the albino dreads that was like ghosts. I don't know about y'all, but when I watched it, I was like, wait a minute, what is this, right? Are these just, I was looking for a good time. I was trying to see some kick 'em ups, some shoot 'em ups, right? I was trying to see violence. So I really wasn't paying attention. And it took me a long time to start realizing, oh, that's the spiritual wickedness. Those albinos that could shift through things. Oh, I'm about to go someplace. They could shift through things and they were unseen, but they were influencing a whole bunch of stuff around them. And they were influencing the people that were in the space. How about the Merovingian? I think that's how you say it. I'm not going to say it again. His whole thing was causality and all these other things. I started realizing, oh, that's the spirit. So now, here's what happens. When we go back to Ephesians 6:12, it tells us we're not wrestling against what? Flesh and blood. Flesh and blood? Humans. I know that girl over there, you got to arguing with her. I know y'all got beef, but trust me, you're not fighting her. This is what you're fighting. Are you ready? So when she goes home, her mother yells at her all the time. But she takes her a whole bunch of places. They have a good time. But she cusses her out. She leaves her at home at all hours of the night by herself. She feels lonely, so she gets angry. And when she comes back to school or college or at work, if she still lives with her mother, she's an adult. I digress. Listen to the analogy. When she comes back, she now sees you. Right? She sees how maybe happy you are. She sees you and she doesn't like you and she doesn't know why. So she decides to fight you. But what you two don't understand is she's not fighting you. She's fighting the frustrations of trying to have a good relationship with her mother, who is then her mother fighting the generational curses of misunderstandings, who is then fighting the lack of a father that doesn't understand his role because of generations of confusion. So you're not fighting, old girl, you're fighting all of the extras. You're fighting the principalities and the powers. We're about to go somewhere. Follow me. Principalities and powers. Now, I want you to pay attention to something. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. So automatically, we're talking about we're not wrestling against each other. But we are wrestling against principalities and powers. What is that? Well, quite simply, it's society. It is the role of society. Essentially, we all come to a conclusion of agreement, right? Where we'll do certain things together, we'll adhere to certain rules, we'll go off of that. Now, in theory, this is great, and we can talk about the founding fathers and freedom and all of those things, but oftentimes it's great in theory and very rarely in practice. Now, in order for the principalities to be able to have control and nullify your understanding of how you're wrestling against that, here's what they do. They insert themselves within every aspect of your living, and there is no greater space of your living than your faith. I want to put something to you, right? When we think and we see the crucifixion of Jesus, who was responsible for it? It was the Pharisees. It was the Romans, right? Now it was all of us, right? We all were to blame. This is the whole thing, right? And it's real simple. When we really assess it, what do we do, right? If you look in the Bible, and we're going to get into this in a second. We're going to look at Mark 7, 5 through 15. However, right now we see that the Roman culture was responsible for the death of Jesus. But what happened hundreds of years later? The same group of people that were responsible or helped in the responsibility of the death of Christ were now the people that began to overtake the faith with their culture. So I go on TikTok a lot. I go on Instagram. I go on YouTube. I like to be in the comments. I know it's crazy, but I enjoy it. It's a rush, man. Could you believe the stuff that people say there? You got to be a thug to go in there, man. You got to be a intellectual, verbal thug. I digress. I just enjoy it, right? So when I go in there, and I'm sure some of you may go in there too because you watching this, right? And you see a lot of stuff, a lot of conspiracy theories, but I want to put some truth to it. So the Roman society began to insert the faith of Christ into their civilization. So they can't just insert it like just willy-nilly, just here, y'all do this. They have to add it to what they're already doing. So they moved the Sabbath day to the Sunday, and the Sunday was representative of their previous way of living. All of the holidays, the Easter, Christmas. Listen, I'm going to say this. While I am very thankful for the birth of Jesus, he was born in June, but in December 25th, there was a Roman holiday where the men of the villages would go into town squares and have orgies. I know you did not want to hear that, and I'm sorry, but that's where that came from. Now, listen, I'm not saying don't celebrate Christmas. I enjoy celebrating Christmas. I am just simply saying that what happens when culture inserts itself in your faith, culture overtakes faith. And when culture overtakes faith, it goes from the thing of being free, because who the Son sets free is free indeed, unless the Romans take control of it and then create so much over top of it that this freedom now becomes a slavery. And that is what happens, and that is what has happened to our faith. Ladies and gentlemen, stop throwing away the baby with the bathwater. I got into it with a person on TikTok one time, and he was like, "Oh, it's crazy that you believe in Jesus. Oh, how could you believe in Jesus? Oh, you black." All this other stuff, right? So I just simply said, brother, power choice is freely given, but I hope that one day you recognize that, like, the Roman culture, the European culture that gave you faith, they didn't create it. They just distorted it and made you think that they created it. To which case he got pissed. But the point I am saying is that now that culture has now inserted itself within our faith, now add 2,000 years to it. Now again, the power of Christ says it doesn't matter where we are. Doesn't matter what's happening. You can find God anywhere. You can find Christ anywhere because, again, ladies and gentlemen, the Bible, the Word, Jesus, this is a lived experience. So when you take off your mind of a rich man's religion, and again, a rich man's religion takes culture and assesses it to overtake faith, to create a superiority, to take back Jerusalem in the crusades for the glory of God. That is a rich man's religion. What we're doing here is showing you the personal belief that comes with it. But listen, don't take my word for it. Because we're looking at that, right? I just told you a little bit of history about Romans, right? But let's go into the word. Let's look at Jesus' assertion when he was dealing with the same type of thing. Now, before we do that, I want to take a break and have a word from our sponsors.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hey, listen, making YouTube videos ain't free. Contrary to other people or my mom, it requires a lot of work. So go to Amazon and buy our book, Passive Militancy. Want to know more about the nonsense of the world and how to make lasting change? Buy the book, help us pay the bills, and be empowered. And now back to regularly scheduled programming. Dad, is that all?
Girl, you wasn't supposed to say that.
Yes, I did get my daughter to do it. Yes, it is expensive, Mom, to make YouTube videos. And yes, I'd like you to read the book. I do not feel shameful, okay? I don't feel shameful. I am on YouTube. I'm on social media. We're supposed to sell things, right? Why not sell something you can learn? Now back to regular scheduled programming. So just to set this up, right? So Jesus is talking to the Pharisees. Now it's very funny. Everybody thinks they'd be disciples and not Pharisees. But if you are a person who has a lot of power in your faith and you use it to judge, castigate, can't even say that, and condemn others, you might be a Pharisee. But hear me. What we got to do is, remember I said this is a lived experience. This is the living word. I'm about to do something. I'm going to read the word as if this is really happening, because we read the word like thou art and then Jesus said. We do that. No. Let's put this in a real life term, okay? So if you're going to get mad, you're just going to have to keep eating these chicken nuggets like my homeboy. You can either let go or you can keep eating them. Let's see what happens. But I got to get real. So the Pharisees and the teachers of the law asked Jesus. This is what they said. They said, man, why don't your disciples live according to the traditions of the elders? Instead of eating their food with defiled hands, bro. I mean, come on, bro. And then he replied, man, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites. As it is written, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to human traditions. And he continued, you got a fine way, bruh, of setting aside the commands of God in order to observe your own traditions. For Moses said, honor your mother and father. And anyone who curses their father or mother is put to death. But you say that if anyone declares that what might have been used to help their father or mother is Corban, devoted to God, then you will no longer let them do anything for their mother and their father. Thus, you nullify the word of God by your tradition that you have handed down, and you do many things like that. I tried to do that as real as I possibly could, because let's be honest, you are talking to people, you're helping people out, you're trying to give them information, trying to spread the word, trying to give them freedom, and here comes some hating dudes coming over here messing with you. Man, this dude ain't nothing. He ain't nothing, Ray. Why y'all even listening to him? He on some nonsense. Him and his homeboy be eating with dirty hands. How would that look? I hope that I provided a bit of an illustration. But more importantly, I hope that you understand that the Pharisees create these traditions, these cultural elements, right? So when we look at the culture, let's bring it to present day. We have our macro culture, which is the American culture, freedom, those sort of things. So we have American culture, which is a macro culture. Then we have a micro culture, that's hip hop culture, doing it for the culture, getting diddied or diddlered or diddled and all this other stuff, grown men hating each other, screaming that they hate each other, screaming of angry poetry. What? Fine, you can get mad all you want, but this is the truth. It's a bunch of angry men screaming at each other, middle-aged men by that point, but I digress. Can't get mad at these young boys with all this other stuff. I'm off my soapbox now. So we have these different levels of culture. Now, the principalities and the powers use the elements of the culture and use it with your faith in mind. Why? Why is faith at the center of it? Ladies and gentlemen, the best way to control the people is to control their God. The best way to control their people is to tell them when they should rest, when God tells them they should rest. The best way to control the people is to tell them where they should give their money. The best place to control people is by telling them that you have a manifest destiny to oppress the entire planet. Because God said we could. That's why.
God damn, that boy can sing.
You must be crazy.
He good.
You must be crazy.
The greatest space that a civilization can use to control its people is through their faith. And then the faith becomes doctrine and elements, and there's nothing wrong with doctrine in and of itself. But when the system takes it over and culture overtakes faith, we start getting confused. We start thinking that instead of fighting principalities and powers, fighting the rulers of darkness in this world, fighting the albino dudes who be slithering through walls in the Matrix, we be thinking that we actually fighting our homegirl. We be thinking we actually fighting our mother. We be thinking that because our mom did something to us when we was a kid, that just makes her an evil, horrible person, and she shouldn't have done it and she was wrong. But how did she get disciplined? How did her mother hit her? What did she perceive from discipline? What did her mother get from discipline? Where did the people who gave it to her come from? How did that affect her? If we go back generationally, what do we end up finding? That we all got it from slavery, right? This condition that said, I beat you in submission. So now that I'm free, I become the master now and I beat you into submission. You're not wrestling against your mom or your grandma, your grandma, your grandma. You're wrestling against the culture that says it is acceptable to control people and the submission of slavery and use God to do it. Okay, so now we got to go further because principalities and powers. Does it stop there? No, because principalities and powers are merely systems, concepts that we all agree to. We say, yep, I want to pay my taxes. Who says they want to pay taxes? But the point is, we all agree to certain things. We agree to drive on the left side of the road versus the right side over there. I don't know, right? But there are agreements for society. But we got to go further because that's a concept. So we're fighting the concept, the idea, the society, when culture overtakes faith. But what does it say? Against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness, found in high places. We got to talk about the Merovingian. We got to talk about those albino white dudes that were slithering through walls with their dreadlocks. All right, we got to talk about them. That's the spirit. That's the thing that is controlling our actual systems. That's the thing that controlled the Pharisees going back and forth with Jesus talking about, hey man, his homeboys be eating with dirty hands. right? That was the thing that they used to control. And the spirit uses principalities and powers to control the people to think that they're fighting against each other. You know, like a poor black man thinking that he's fighting a poor white man. Not happening. You're fighting a system that told the rich person that they can have everything, and then they'll just blame each one of you, so that way you don't pay attention to what's actually happening. I hope I don't get in trouble for this. I don't even have enough subscribers to get demonetized. I think this should be straight, right? Yeah, it should be straight. These people that have attuned themselves to the principalities and powers and the rulers of the darkness of this world are attuned to spiritual wickedness found in high places. Consider this. In Job, Satan found his way into heaven one time. I don't know. Just go with me. There's a point. Trust me. Satan finds his way into heaven. He goes to talk to God. And in typical hating fashion comes to God playing games. And so God looks at him and goes, Satan, where you come from, bro? Like you in here, bro. I already knew you was going to be here. You trying it, bro. Why you here? You know what he says? Oh, nothing. Just going to and fro on the earth. Basically what he was saying, because it's a lot deeper if we live it. He was going around messing stuff up. Going around convincing the kings of the world, the power of the world, that they should have more power, that they should have more privileges, that they should have more subjects, that they should subjugate more people, influencing that decision of power. And now that we live in our current society, everybody wants to be a king. Everybody wants that power. Everybody wants to assess that. Everybody wants a rich man's religion. So it's about the superiority in faith and not the living of faith. So now you have a whole bunch of people saying things like,
it's amazing how you actually try to control my answers, but it's all right.
I'm asking the question. When you're going to ask me question, control how I answer. I'm the person who is questioning you, right? So I should be able to get my answers.
Well, what I really think is you should rather give me maybe a time limit and say maybe you have a minute. No, be fast about this.
All this thing you're doing now, you're wasting time. Just give us the other side of the explanation.
It's okay.
And these things sound dope. After all, they're causing to question the world around us. But understand, just like the principalities and the powers of the world, the system at large is controlling things, and the spiritual wickedness found in high places attunes itself to that. They also attune it to them people that's going super viral to giving you all this information. Who killed more people in the Bible? Was it the devil? That type of thing gets you excited, right? It doesn't give you the ability to live out the truth. And even if it's true, even if the Anunnaki made this whole thing and lizard people are under each and every airport, how does that help you do anything? How does that help you love your wife better? How does that help you treat your kids better? How does that help you deal with your coworkers? How does that help you figure out how to make ends meet? How exactly does that understanding help you? You are too caught up. We are too caught up in a world that tells us having a whole bunch of information is everything we need, but not context for the information. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to say this. Knowledge is not power. It's not. I'm sorry. I hate to burst your bubble, right? Because it's just a bunch of information, a bunch of zeros and ones. But the proper context of understanding how the zeros and ones form the matrix, that is power. So the assertion of culture gets in the way. Now, culture is a beautiful thing. It's shared ideas and traditions. However, we have to pay attention when the culture at large, the principalities and powers, and when the clicks and views, and when all of these things begin to overtake what we believe. The power of Jesus is freedom, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're still in the right place. I'm literally just telling you that whatever your faith is, make sure that you don't attune yourself to the principalities and powers, the systems being used by the spiritual wickedness found in high places that is tricking all of us to fight each other. At Passive Militancy, you're going to understand, we're going to get behind things. We're going to talk about the culture. We're going to talk about history. We're going to get into it, and I'm going to continue to be weird. If you don't like it, stop being like my homeboy, and you done got to 20 chicken nuggets, and you still here after 20 chicken nuggets. You must like this, for real, for real. I think he liked it too. So, we've assessed culture. We saw how culture interferes. We've seen how it interfered with what Jesus was trying to do. We see the domination of culture, how principalities and powers are controlled by spiritual wickedness that then convinces us that we're fighting each other, right? This nonsense, right? But we got to go even deeper. So, in episode 2, you know what we're going to learn? Words. Yeah, words. So, I'm glad that you were here for episode 1. I'm hoping that you continue to be here so that way you can understand how the entirety of the world has led us to the places that we are. So you can have a glory moment. And again, I want everybody to assess this. White, black, Hispanic, doesn't matter, whoever's watching this. At what age were you when you realized the reality of this country, slavery, racism, and all those other things? I'm going to throw some things in the comment section, man, because you know I like to be there. Right? I give you one more story and I'm gone. So I was trying to do a podcast with my cousin about a year ago, and we were talking about the comment section. And he said that it's hell. And I said, I mean, for me, I can stand on the tips of heaven looking down at hell to figure out how people got there. Be blessed and see you for episode 2.